Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe, the host of this show, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I do my best to bring exciting, impactful guests each and every time. I have the good honor and privilege of having as a guest today the CEO, the founder CEO of Botswana Innovation Hub, and my ex-classmate and good friend, Alan Boshwaen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Would you do the honors and introduce yourself to the viewer? Today we're going to talk about all things innovation, but I always like my guests to kick it off by introducing themselves in terms of your background and who you are.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I've spent most of my working career thus far in the banking arena, in Botswana, United Kingdom, for working for various financial services institutions. I've dealt with a range of clients, ranging from relatively small ventures, citizen-owned ventures, all the way to multinational entities, in terms of banking support to them. I then moved across to be the founder of an investment promotion entity owned by the government, which was focused on the financial services arena. And most recently,
what was that entity again?
It was the Botswana International Financial Services Center.
I remember, yes.
Yes. And most recently, over the last period, you are right, I've been the CEO of the Botswana Innovation Hub, the founding CEO, and we are still at it. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to talk about the challenges and milestones towards creating a functioning innovation ecosystem in Botswana. This is a very broad subject, but I think we'll narrow it down to 10 points. And I'd really like you to kick off this discussion by explaining the BIH's mandate. What is the mandate of Botswana Innovation Hub, and how, for instance, can it be differentiated from the likes of LEA, SEDA, or other supporting entities or empowerment entities in Botswana?
Okay, thank you. A functioning innovation ecosystem is crucial to our development, to entrepreneurship, to innovation. And the BIH, as I would like to call it, plays a unique role in that it provides certain unique support services as they apply to the innovation space, and runs a science and technology park, provides funding, which is unique in this environment. I would say that as we progress, as we move forward with our development as a country, innovation, the knowledge economy plays a bigger role, and therefore you need a dedicated entity to play side by side with the entities that you mentioned. The way I see it, they take up where we have started in terms of working with startups and so on. Once these startup ventures have reached a certain stage and ready to go into the market, they can apply for commercial type of funding and support from your SEDAs, your commercial banks, and all that. So we are filling that early stage gap in the system. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Boshwaen, I really want to understand more about the services that you offer. Correct me if I'm wrong. My impression was that you help the startups or the entrepreneur while they're still at an embryonic stage before they get to an infancy level. So I'd really like to know those types of services, the exact services that you offer, because I fear there are quite a number of entrepreneurs out there who are not aware of exactly what what services you offer.
Okay. Yes. So you've got an idea, a concept based on innovation. It's a new idea, new concept. Well, according to you, the entrepreneur, and the gap that we are seeking to plug in working with entrepreneurs and innovators is taking this concept, which is in your head, into the first working prototype of a service or a product. So that if I give the example using this glass, you could imagine it. It has a shape like this. It serves this function, but in order to attract investment into your venture, you want the first prototype to be there, so that you can demonstrate the advantages. So this is the gap that we seek to plug, and we plug it in a range of ways. Well, you work with our team in terms of issues like assessing the concept feasibility. You might have to do some validation of the concept. We've got links to the universities. You might have to test the product. We've assisted many people in terms of testing their products or their.
Do you stress test it by taking it to the market or just seeing whether it functions?
Seeing whether it functions.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing whether it functions. We also assist in terms of the market testing a process like what you are saying.
Yes.
Of let's build a pilot together. So in terms of how this works, we could, in terms of physically, also provide a subsidized office, co-working spaces, which we have at the hub. We could, in those physical working spaces, there's subsidized broadband.
In other words, you pay little or no rent, or you pay just for utilities, or what?
You pay exceptionally low rental. Just once you've gone through the hurdle of being accepted as a member and having applied to join this, you know, it means that we are more or less optimistic that it's something that we should work with. So you'll pay. You've
determined the viability at that stage.
Yes. So you'll pay a concessional rent. So what you'll get in this co-working space is a very low, a very generous broadband provisioning. You'll get access to other innovators. It can be a lonely journey to be an entrepreneur. So it's very useful to have a cohort of like-minded people that you are testing out, and maybe they can offer something that you don't have in terms of taking your concept further. But given our wide network as an entity, internationally, regionally, you'll also get opportunities to pitch your ideas, test them out, whether it's with business entities, government, and so on. So it's a range of services that will assist you. But I would also like to say that the aspect of funding is something that we've also availed to some of our members. Yeah.
All right. I think it is a very good move on the part of government to have come up with this thing. I'm curious, is there like a niche area or an area in the marketplace that government has prioritized where you are particularly paying attention? Or is it just an open door policy? Any area, any item, any idea you have is welcome?
Yeah, okay. So in our evaluation framework, we are trying to look for groundbreaking ideas or concepts. So we do, in that matrix, look for something that can be disruptive, if I may use that term, in terms of changing, not just following what services or products are already available or in existence. That's really the essence of innovation. That's what we are looking for, because in our belief, that will be the sort of business that will make bigger returns in the longer term than a more simple concept. So we are looking for some level of innovation. We are primarily concerned with the technology and innovation landscape. We don't really prescribe more precisely than that, except that we work around various themes that, as we've evolved, we've seen that they are particularly relevant in Botswana. The four broad themes are in mining, and mining tech. Secondly, the area of clean tech or sustainability issues, solar, waste to energy, sanitation. Third, the area of applications relevant to agriculture and health. Fourth, ICT. So those are the broad themes or areas that we like to work with. Yeah, but they are very broad, as you can see.
You've been at the helm executing this mandate for 5 years plus now. So the question arises: any observations, any learnings, any challenges working with entrepreneurs in Botswana over the last 5 years?
Well, yes, sometimes the deal flow has been somewhat limited, and I think it's been limited because sometimes in the innovation space, you have to validate your idea, test that it works, and that means more collaborations with the university academic sector, because if you make a claim, somehow it has to be proven to work in the areas that I mentioned. So we did identify some gap in terms of we really need to work harder to ensure that there's that closer link between our academic sector and the innovation entrepreneurs. We also clearly identified that compared to more mature systems around the world or even in parts of Africa, there is a funding gap which is appropriate for innovation. I'm talking about funding of startups, greenfield. Yes, we have agencies like SEDA, but they tend, and we have the commercial banks, but they tended to play in the area where you've already refined and you've got your business plan and your product.
The more traditional.
Yeah, so I would say that the issue of funding and the instruments that are appropriate to this is another gap that we identified. I think third, because you don't want to go through a whole long list, is probably market access, in the sense that we would like to see that existing entities, government, private sector, yourself, Mogobe, allow these innovators to come into your establishment to test their products. If someone can make a claim and saying, I'm going to revolutionize your profit model by doing X, Y, Z, allow them to come in under certain terms. So in bigger economies, those opportunities tend to exist a bit more. So those are the three broad areas that I think we have to divert more attention.
Yes. Okay. Milestones. Let's talk about milestones in the period that you've been there. I believe that when you look back to where you started, maybe when you There was a time when you were the only employee, for instance,
Yeah.
looking for your support staff, setting up systems,
Yeah.
to now. What would you say are the significant milestones that, looking back, you can look back and say, no, we've made a difference?
Yeah, well, first off, I think we've got underway a very unique asset that will take us into the years ahead, or decades even, in terms of having a dedicated science and technology park. It will be developed further, but it's the components of that are coming together. You've got conferencing facilities. We'll be able to bring people from, once this COVID ends, from various parts of the world to network with us here in Botswana. We will have dedicated lab facilities. We will have in the bigger environment, that is the science and technology park, data centers. We will have a hotel even. So that's one key aspect. But I think second and bigger than the physical infrastructure.
Yes.
I would like to say
It's a beautiful building, by the way.
Yeah.
Speaking as a developer, I really like the building.
Beyond the physical infrastructure, I would like to say clearly, you and I growing up in Gaborone, we are not an industrial or knowledge economy at this stage. So the whole concept of how innovation works and the understanding of that is something that we've been able to push the boundary, bring to the fore. Most of the products or services that we, as growing up, interacted with were things that came from outside.
Yes.
Now the whole evolution of how did the idea come, how did this person bring it into fruition, is something that the understanding of that has, through our various capacity building and building the network, has been extended very, very greatly. I would say that's the biggest achievement. It does help in how do you then build a successful innovation going forward. I think thirdly, the starting up of the innovation fund, still small, but will be extended.
When you say small, what are the numbers?
Well, it's budgeted at about 15 million pula per year. That's a relatively small amount, but I think it's a learning process. How do you administer this? What do you look for? What are the pitfalls so that you don't just disperse grants without an output at the end of the day? It's something that we've built a team around. We've understood what other people in other countries do so that we continue to get better. So those are the three areas that I would say we've made some impact. We begin to see that some people have actually moved into the commercial environment based on what interventions we've provided to them. Yeah.
In terms of benchmarking, would you say the model that we are using in Botswana as BIH is comparable to any, or you benchmark with any in the world?
Yes. Different countries, depending on their level of development and their circumstances, stress different things. So we had to look at various models. We looked at the European countries, but we also had to look at some successful African examples. Sometimes it's by circumstance that people achieve success in a certain area. You saw what Kenya is doing with the fintech arena, payments and all that, and excite.
Yeah, that is, that is very impressive.
But that's a very different, because that's more homegrown. That's a slightly different example to Rwanda, where they started to work with international entities saying, come and test your products. American company, come and test your drone in Rwanda. Your regulations are very tight, but you will work with us and we'll ease the regulations and you can test your product, but you'll have to do a significant part in us. So I'm saying that there are different models. It depends on the circumstances. I would like to think that we are flexible enough.
Yeah. And the one you have is one that is ideal for our circumstances. All right, let's move on to the next point. You and I have met in the context of setting up an organization called Angel Networks Botswana, previously Angel Investing Network, where a group of angel investors are coming out and saying we're available, we want to fund startups, we want to participate in the ecosystem. I want to know, for the benefit of the viewer, how does your mandate interact or interrelate with that of an organization such as Angel Network Botswana as envisaged or to work? I say that because it's still starting,
Yes.
It's still new.
Yeah, and it's a great start, and I think we are very excited because we are having experienced business people, entrepreneurs, saying we are willing to consider concepts, ideas from startups in Botswana. We are willing to consider giving them the initial seed funding because we think it could be a viable idea. More equally importantly, we are willing to consider mentoring them, guiding them. That I've met these experiences in my journey as an entrepreneur. So it complements what we are doing because you realize, Mogobe, in Botswana, sometimes government becomes exceedingly dominant in our business space.
It is.
And it's crucial that we bring on our private sector. They have experience at the coal face of starting enterprise. So we picked that opportunity and said, you know what, as Botswana Innovation Hub, we have to nurture the context with experienced business people. In terms of assisting the Angel Network go along its journey, we bought someone from Nigeria who, in Lagos and other parts of Africa, they've got a very active angel funding network. So really, angel funding is about, before you even get to the bank, before you get to BIH, can you meet someone, test your idea, explain your concept under certain conditions, so that maybe they give you your first 50,000, 100,000 pula. You might need a laptop, you might need X, introduce you to people. And believe me, this is very important to the journey of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I really commend the network for being there. I hope more people will join it. Yeah.
Okay, we really appreciate the role of BIH, and I'm sure I'm speaking for other entrepreneurs that it can only grow from strength to strength.
Can I just add, by the way, that, you look at what we all know, very successful dynamic innovation places like California, Silicon Valley. It's exactly founded on those principles that once you make your money, you become successful, you plow back into the startups.
Yes.
You go around looking for more new disruptive ideas and say, I like that one. Let me put some money in it. So it becomes a dynamic cycle
Ecosystem,
rather than just once off, I'm out. Yeah. I'm going to retire.
Going back tomorrow again.
Yes.
All right. No, I understand. Let's move on. We're in the midst of COVID. We just come out of our third lockdown. It is what people describe as a black swan event, and it has had devastating effect across the economy. So I'm just wondering, from the point of view of BIH, Botswana Innovation Hub, what is the outlook? First of all, have you assessed the impact to the innovation space? And secondly, from that assessment, what is the outlook going forward?
Yeah, well, in our view, this COVID crisis actually necessitates innovation. This is what we began to see. I'm sure you experienced it too, that this whole disruption to our daily lives necessitates that you come up with new business models, new ways of doing. It's by necessity. It's not a choice. If you want to bring customers into your environment where we are sitting here, you have to look at new ways of marketing, new ways of delivery. So that's innovation in and of itself. We did equally, we went out somewhere in the middle of the lockdown and said people must come up with their ideas, how to mitigate, what new ideas can come up. We saw a huge rise, I'm sure the people who are running the telco networks in digital online platforms. But it's not only about the digital space, it's about, there's a huge outcry in Botswana at the moment. How can we innovate, use tech in our agriculture, in our health, so that we come up with better new products? So I mostly see this as a huge opportunity of thinking differently and coming up with new business models that are not yet there, that have to solve the problems that are brought about by the COVID situation.
So it could turn out to be more of a blessing than a curse.
Well, it's very difficult to put it that way. I'm saying that from the point of view of dynamism and coming up with new business. It
could trigger innovation.
It triggers innovation.
Yeah. All right. Now, having gone through this process, having dealt with the startups, there must be one or two that come to mind. Are there examples of innovators, perhaps without even mentioning names, that you can think of who have gone through your process? I don't want to use the word successfully, but they've certainly gone through the innovation, the process that you've set out, and there's hope that they're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Well, innovation, a lot of it, as you know, as a seasoned business person, is about the individual, their tenacity, persistence, over setbacks, hurdles. I would, for instance, mention a gentleman who started off with a model where he was producing cell phones and packaging them in terms of the bundled services that were on the cell phone for the Botswana market.
Yes.
He's still in business. At first, obviously, there are all sorts of cheap Chinese products coming in, but he's still in business. He was so agile that post the COVID crisis, he moved into the electronic thermometers.
Yes, market.
Now he's moved into the third order where he's saying, let me look for other innovators who are looking for a production space. And he linked up with one of our other members who are producing solar-powered hearing devices.
Wow.
It was being produced outside the country. Now he's producing them in the basement of our building.
Wow.
So I think this kind of journey of persistence, of adapting, is something that is commendable. Yes, there are also people, some of them went outside the country to, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing.
No, it's not.
We have an entity called Yami, who are online food delivery service. We see that they were called My Foodness.
I think we use them.
Yes.
We use them in this restaurant.
Oh well,
yes.
Excellent. Yeah. So these are just examples. They started off relatively small, but now they've got branches, Tanzania and other African countries. So the list is there. We don't have to look too far for the examples, but the biggest lesson is persistence, agility, and linking up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say, still on that point, that there is a shift? Because some of the problems we may have had are cultural. Is there a change in consciousness? Do you detect a shift where people are developing an entrepreneurial mindset? Because I'm sure at the time you and I started, when we had SADC and GSS, entrepreneurship was not something that featured in our thinking. Would you say that there's a identifiable shift in thinking or outlook?
Oh, definitely, most definitely. I think people are more attuned to global trends and all that. But beyond that, they are trying to see how can we, and this is where the opportunity is, how can we apply these to our unique environment? Because the problems that are applicable in Western industrialized societies are not necessarily our own problems. And that's where the opportunity is. I would say that definitely the interest and the ideas are there, and it's a question of successfully building what we said is the innovation ecosystem so that it can, in a determined way, support them, move forward, bring in corporate, government, private sector, the university sector, so that these ideas don't end up faltering.
Yes. Speaking of the university sector, you did mention that you do work with universities. I'm thinking of people like BUST. Do you work closely with them? And if so, what is your what arrangements are in place for you to cooperate with them?
Yeah, well, we've got standing agreements with them, which is very important. I'll just give you an example of areas where you would, as an entrepreneur, as an independent entrepreneur, want to bring in the university. You might say, I'll give you an idea which I've seen coming up often.
Yes.
I want to develop a product based on a naturally occurring plant, herb, whatever it is in Botswana.
Singapore, for instance.
Yeah. Now, in order to do that, you have to do your safety test. Ensure that someone, an independent laboratory, has tested and accredited this, and said, and whatever the composition of that product has been tested. Has it got cholesterol? Has it got sodium? All these issues. So this is why, and if you begin to make a claim that it's got curative properties, then someone has to
test
to validate this.
Yes.
But this is very important to your market access, because other markets will be looking for these tests and accreditations. Even you as the funder will say, well, you are saying that all well and good, but the efficacy, give me some independent validation of your claim about your product. So that's some of the areas
that you work with.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's talk of Africa becoming a free trade area. We know that there's legislation in place. In fact, some countries have already acceded to some of these protocols. So what arrangements are in place for external assistance? I'm not just talking about that one only. I'm talking about SADC, OAU, and even internationally. Yeah,
very important. You see, Botswana, we've got, as we all know, it's not something we have to hide, a relatively small market. Our entrepreneurs, innovators, have to necessarily look beyond our home market. They need to test and be successful in our home market, but they need to look beyond that in terms of market access. So these arrangements that you mentioned at government level are part of that. But at the BIH level, I would like to mention some of the partnerships that we already have in place. We've got the Southern Africa Innovation Support, SAIS. We run competitions, we run hackathons. But through this process...
What are hackathons? Some of my viewers may not know.
Hackathons are really rapid solution building boot camps. That's my phraseology for that. So that you bring a team of people together and say, hack the solution. This is the problem.
Oh, okay.
It came from the ICT arena.
Yes.
So we have that arrangement with the Southern Africa Innovation Support. It brings in various SADC countries, but it does bring us together with the networks in a formalized way. So if you become a member of BIH and you say, I heard about an innovation platform or funding platform in Cape Town, you might get access through such Cape Town, Namibia, Tanzania, our regional countries. But in addition to those kind of networks, we also have, every year, periodically, I would say pretty much every few weeks, run competitions, pitch sessions in conjunction with regional and international entities, seed stars. And this is crucial so that our innovators, our entrepreneurs can test themselves against an international marketplace and see how they are doing. We are very glad when they start to get recognition, win as they've been doing, because it shows that
some of them international, have won.
Yes, we ran a competition with the SADC, the FinMark Trust, focused on fintech, financial technology.
Yes.
I think a couple of entities, startups from here, came up with ideas, KYC, know your customer compliance product. I forget what the other one was, but taken to a regional situation, they were seen to be the best. Wow. So this also gives them access to other funders, other networks. Wow. So this is very important in terms of ramping up that sort of activity. Innovation doesn't happen in a very narrow, confined space.
All right. As we come to the end of our time together, Mr. Boshwaen, I'd like you to speak in general terms. We've moved as Botswana from an agrarian society to industrial. Just when we're getting into industrial, we're now moving to 4IR. What is the outlook for us? Are we going to cope? Are we going to adapt? And are you optimistic looking forward? How is this 4IR, Fourth Industrial Revolution, going to impact us? Are we going to succeed in adapting to it?
Well, I think we have to look at our situation. It's not only about creating products that are already there. It's about looking at how we can come up with solutions that are relevant to our lives as Botswana and our challenges. And this 4IR, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, will then, if we do that successfully, we'll be able to take our own products and services, build onto them the digital platforms, the technology capability. You know what I mean by that is that a drone is a product that we take from outside.
Yes.
Largely, it's already it's already there. The basic tech, the GPS, is already in place. But how do you apply it to challenges in Botswana and come up with solutions that would that we are identified. We are identifying as we are living our daily lives of this is the problem. So I think my take on 4IR is how we slot ourselves in, not necessarily just taking wholesale. This is Apple, this is what we are,
So sometimes we have to adapt and then improve for our purposes and make it up. Okay. I'd like you to look at the camera, Mr. Boshwaen, and talk to the entrepreneur out there. I want you to give them 1 or 2 words of wisdom, 1 or 2 words of encouragement, 1 or 2 words of support. Just inspire the Botswana entrepreneur as we part.
Yes. Well, I would say don't lose hope. I said earlier that it can be lonely because sometimes the support system of your journey as an entrepreneur may not be there, and you are convinced that I've got something that can work, that can go into the market, that can, shall I say, make me rich as the entrepreneur. So persist at it, knock on those doors, use the support that's available from BIH, other organizations, and importantly, experienced business people. Sometimes people say, if I share my idea, it will be stolen. But if there's a format, there's a system in place, you will get support by sharing a little bit of your idea so that you can extend it and make it into a living entity, a living commercial entity.
All right. How do people get hold of you if somebody wants to develop this conversation further, maybe not just with yourself, but with your staff? How do they get hold of you? What are the contact details?
Yes, well, we are available on 391-3328. That's old tech, but www.bih.co.bw is our website. And please continue engaging us, advising us on areas where maybe you think we should delve into to make your journey better as an entrepreneur or innovator.
Okay. It remains for me, Mr. Boshwaen, to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and not just your time, but sacrificing for the nation. You've been a committed and dedicated civil servant. You are doing this for the nation and sacrificing your time to put a platform and make it available for Botswana so that we can move from where we are to a much greater space, entrepreneurially speaking. So keep on doing what you are doing, and I applaud you and your staff, and do maintain the momentum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.